Hey, what's up? Silas here. In this video, I'm going to be talking about social programs, specifically when people talk about free education and what exactly does that mean. But a little by the side, I'm listening to this audiobook, The Rise and Fall of Dodo, and they were mentioning Harvard University back when it was like 4 years old. And they're talking about how they're just doing the, what's it called, world building, or just talking about the area there. They were talking about how there's like a marsh there, and it was protecting Harvard from this skirmishes going on between the two local Native American tribes, and most people couldn't read in the area and things. Reading wasn't a common thing, and people valued education to such a high level. This was also the time when the first book was ever published in the United States of America, and it was a very time-consuming thing. It was a very valuable thing. It was a very limited thing. People understood the worth of it, and they're willing to pay a lot of money to do this, give a lot of time. It was something very valued. And then now you have a place in the United States of America where people have access to all this information. Harvard University is still there, but now they're going to things where they're bringing in quotas, they're bringing in people in other situations. You see the Ivy Leagues happening with people complaining, but it's not about education, it's about creating a safe space for people. And it seems to be, you've gone from a point where people could hardly read when Harvard University and these Ivies were established, and now to a point where people hardly read. People can read, but they just hardly choose to read. And there might be an actual ending of these large institutions. These institutions of higher learning might actually be coming to their end during a time when so many people can read, but they choose not to. Yet in the past, so few people could read and they really wanted to, and that was what started it. So maybe that's actually the reason. Maybe that's part of what these universities and that system was built for. Maybe that system was built to create the kind of world that we have now, where people are literate, at least, even if they don't choose to use it, but then going from there. Okay, now into the rest of the video talking about education. Yeah, so this is a sentiment that I've seen when talking about public education and other public services. This is specifically when you talk about education and healthcare. Someone will be questioning the quality of it, or if we should actually go to more of a privatized system, or just talking about other ways to get educated or to get healthcare. And then people will say, what do you have against free education? Why don't you want people to be educated? You just want people to die. You don't want people to be healthy. You're a conservative, you're a Republican, you're on the right, blah, 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 this, that, this. Why is that? Why do people go with that free? Why do people jump from public education to free? If I was talking about in the situation, like here in Nairobi, Kenya, the public transportation system is not that good. The buses aren't really that effective, but now the taxi cab system wasn't really working as well. But now places like the ride sharing kind of industry has started. There's local companies, there's also international companies like Uber and Lyft that have come in. And then if you're talking about how beneficial those have been, if you're in the United States of America or somewhere else and you're saying, yes, I really like what the ride sharing has done here, it's really cool to see these new kind of forms of transportation, would someone come out and say, you're just against free transportation? You don't want people to get places. Why are you against people getting to places easier? You just want people to be stranded in places. No, because people understand, like, just because it's a public service does not mean it's free. Neither is free education, neither is public education or public healthcare a free system. It's taxed, it's paid for in a different way. And even talking about, let's do a different kind of public education, let's talk about a different kind of public healthcare, where you don't just go in and you don't pay anything at all. Find a situation where, even if it's taxed, even if you still have the taxation thing, why don't you have a situation where you give back the money to the actual people, and then they can use that money to pay for actual services? Because just how you have public transportation, even though they do switch it to like mass transit now to make it seem like, yes, it's something that everybody uses. So that's a bit disingenuous in that aspect as well. But just the same way how you have public transportation systems where you still have to go buy your Metro card, you still have to go pay for your bus ticket, you still have to pay when you're actually using it. It's pay per use in that way. Why don't they have a situation like that with education, where you have the monies returned to the people and then those people can actually go out and pay? And part of the reason they don't do that is because it's a situation where a lot of people get taxed to pay for this service that don't actually use it. But actually, that's not even a reason, because if you think about it, a lot of the people who get taxed for public transportation may also not use public transportation. They might have their own car on top of that. They might have other situations like that. So why do you guys think people do that? That whole disingenuous thing of jumping to free, to make it seem. I mean, I think it's entirely disingenuous. But what do you guys think about that? And what do you guys think about other forms of education? I mean, we get to the point where it could be a lot cheaper, couldn't it, to just have keep the buildings, keep the school buildings the way they are, if you still have them there, just kind of roll back on actually building them. And you get to a situation where you just have tablets, you have Wi-Fi, you have some time for the kids to actually go in there and learn this material. And people start talking about, oh no, you need schools because not everybody can learn remotely. Some people actually need a teacher there. But I was thinking of this system where you have a situation where it's like those who can teach, not those who can't teach. That used to be kind of a saying that kind of mocks the people actually go into teaching, because in some situations you have some people who are just like, oh, I'm unable to actually do this in the free market, so I'm going to try to teach this to people. And you actually have certain situations where certain majors, certain lines of learning seem to be the main purpose of that is to become a professor and then teach more people, for them to become professors and teach more people. Well, there's not an actual realistic use for it in the general market. So, coming back to this thing, those who can't teach, you have a situation where people can actually just go in and actually teach what they can, because you already have the course material there. People can do a system where they just come in instead of community service or whatnot, or they just say, like, yes, I have a kid, so I'm going to spend X amount of time at the local school building teaching my kid this thing. And since I'm teaching my kid this, if there's a few other kids that also want to learn this material, I can actually teach it to them, and then we have that kind of communal type thing. There's different ways to do this. I mean, we don't have to just have a situation where it's the same system that's been going on. I think the current system is based off the Prussian system that was designed to create a very certain specific result. And I think part of that is what we're seeing right now. You have people who talk about how workplaces need to be socially controlled. They need to be socially selected or socially manicured. I don't want to say manicured, but the way you have people just talking about how the workplace needs to be a safe space and don't need to get triggered in the space. We need to have some people on top really controlling what can be said and done in there. And then those same people, when you talk about homeschooling, you talk about the negative aspects of public education, they'll say, oh, kids need to go to school to be socialized. You had that one child at Yale University, and I say child because I think this is what children say. She was yelling at the professor saying, this place is not about education. This is about creating a home. This is about creating a safe space for us. The fact that they have gone through these environments where in the school they have these manicured environments where they have all this kind of control, and then the kids go out and they expect to have that same kind of situation in the world. Or is it a situation where the school hasn't really given enough of an accurate environment where it's like, I don't know. It's a tough situation trying to understand what's going on with this. What do you guys think? Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to talk about this more. The main thing in this video is just the annoyance about people talking about public services, especially education and healthcare, and then saying free instead of public. That's one thing I always point out. I'm like, it's not free. And people are like, oh, it's just the way we talk. No, it's not free. You got to be very specific about this. Nobody would actually be against a free way. You see, I'm saying that. Would they not be against that? Because maybe it seems like people are, because it's relatively free to just go online and get this free information, these free schools. Yet a lot of people are against the system where that's going to happen. And I'm going to end up on this. There's something I was thinking. There are some people who inherently they understand that if the next generation does have a better education system than they are, their value is going to be reduced because those next generations, the next people coming up will be more capable. So I think there's an inherent thing that some people may have subconsciously. They may want to subject future generations to the same level, at least the same level, if not lower forms of education than they are, so they can maintain their positions. Because if the education system all of a sudden improves tenfold, then the current people who went through the older system will be surpassed very fast. But anyway, like, share, and subscribe. Links below to the merchandise store. Till next video, thanks for listening, and goodbye.